Hey everyone, and welcome to Vocal Flair, where we teach you everything you need to know about voiceover recording in the home studio. My name's Kyle Shevlin, and I'm back again with another tutorial. Today we're going to start talking about EQ, and specifically the EQ spectrum. Now, what do I mean by the EQ spectrum? Well, human beings have a natural limitation on what they can and cannot hear. For most human beings, we can hear as low as 20 hertz and up to 20,000 hertz. And everything we hear falls within this range. That means every sound source that I record produces signal ranging between 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz. And knowing what each band of the EQ spectrum sounds like can help me develop the skills to do better EQing when I'm mixing my recordings later on. And so what I thought I would do today to give you guys a good idea what different parts of the EQ spectrum sound like is I created a device within Reason that's going to split my voice up into different bands and allow me to mute and solo them one by one so you can hear them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip to the rack view right now, and I'm going to show you what I built. Now, flipping to the rack view, you can see that I have an audio track and a number of devices labeled stereo imager. And what a stereo imager allows me to do is to take a signal and divide it into a low signal and a high signal using a crossover frequency. And what I have done, I'm going to flip the rack around so we can look at the cables behind it, is I've taken my input signal of my audio here, and I've put it into the first splitter, and from there I've sent the low signal to its own mix channel and taken the high signal and sent it to its own stereo imager, once again splitting out the low signal and the high signal to be split again. And what I did is I divided the bands roughly by the note A. If you're a musician, you will know that A is tuned to 440, and each octave is a double or a half depending on where you start. So with 440, I have that to 220, 220 have that to 110, and that's how I came up with the bands that I decided to come up with today. And since they're all routed to their own mix channels, as you could see, each of these ranging in hertz, I then routed them to a bus and combined them all. So we're going to flip back to the mixer window, and you can see that they're all routed to here. And this is my original signal, and then this is all the splits. Now, what I thought would be a great way to show you guys the different parts of the spectrum is to solo out certain ranges as I speak. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up this master EQ, Spectrum EQ, and you can see my voice currently and all the different frequencies that it covers. And I'm going to choose not to follow which section I'm on. It's going to stay right here on the master section as I solo out different frequencies and keep speaking. So we're going to start from low and we're going to work our way to high. So starting here, you can see in the window that it's mostly really low frequencies. Some higher frequencies are managing to push its way through. It's not a perfect band pass, but you probably can't understand most of what I'm saying. Moving up to the 110 to 220 hertz, you could start to gain a little intelligibility with my words, but primarily there's still a low rumble and very muffled sounding. Moving up to 220 to 440, we're starting to finally be able to make out the words that are being spoken. This is kind of the sound you might expect to hear if you were hearing music through someone's walls, because walls will absorb the higher frequency information that doesn't have the energy to penetrate the walls. Moving up to 440 to 880, we're getting what I call the low end of the transistor or AM radio spectrum. This is a very no low end, no high end, so you get a little clarity of my voice, but it sounds really fake and almost like recorded through a toy microphone. Now as we move to 880 to 1.7K, we start to gain a lot of clarity. You can start to understand most of the words that I'm speaking, and you're beginning to be able to hear a little bit of sibilance. as I speak. But it still sounds very much like an AM radio when you're at this frequency. Now 1.7K to 3.4K, you can notice a lot of clarity, and sibilance is pretty present here in this range. This is the range of human hearing that is our ears are specifically inclined to hear. And so if your vocal is a little less than intelligible in a mix, especially if you have other tracks going on, a slight boost here will go a long way to raising it up above the other noise and allowing you to hear it. However, any boost that you do here will also increase sibilance, which is the sound that you hear when I say an S or perhaps a T. And it's important not to boost that too much, although we can use de-essing later to remove that from our vocal. And finally, we come to the final range, the 3.4K and up range. I'm speaking at the same volume, and I know that you can barely hear me, so there's not a lot of information up here, even with a nice condenser mic that I've been using today. Um, but it's still important. This is how we add quote unquote air into our recordings if you find that your recording perhaps is a little dead or lifeless. This might be a good place to boost just a little to add some crispness and some, like I said, air to the mix. Now, just so you understand, my voice is comprised of all those bands. Taking any one of them away will change the way I sound to you or to anyone. It would be like taking a painting and removing a small spectrum of color from it. It would drastically change the way it sounds. But that's what we do with EQ. We more or less adjust the color of the vocal recording or other recording, depending on what material you're using. And so I hope this gives you a little insight into how you can develop your ear for different bands and frequencies of EQ. And I hope you can take this and maybe build your own band splitter like I have and practice your EQing skills this week. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoy it and come back again soon. Thanks.